Hola, escuchas de Transmutando. Bienvenidos al episodio número 32. En esta charla me encuentro con Topaz Adizes, un director de cine, guionista y diseñador de experiencias. Este episodio está en inglés, así que les dejamos unos subtítulos para quienes lo vean por YouTube. Para los que escuchan otras plataformas, atentos al idioma. Topaz ha ganado premios importantes por sus documentales y cortos. Él es ganador de un Emmy por un experimento social y proyecto que pienso que debes de conocer como una inspiración: The Skin Deep. The Skin Deep explora la comunicación efectiva en nuestros tiempos cuando la forma de relacionarnos se ha complicado por causa de los cambios que ha generado la era digital. Hay algo fascinante en su planteamiento: el espacio que hay entre nosotros, sin juicios y un lugar fértil para las preguntas. No se trata de buscar la respuesta, se trata de hacer las preguntas adecuadas. Espero que disfrutes nuestro primer episodio en inglés. Estás escuchando Transmutando. I think this is the worst time in many years to have films being done that way. Because I think that attention of people, or like the way that the new digital era of, you know, this immediate dopamine response, dopamine kind of like injections and fixes of this, you know, it just makes it so hard for people now to sort of like be patient in slow films. I don't know.
That's why I say the next film I make, I'll totally pay for it, because that way I'm not worried about.
You're not worried if
ROI.
It's a commercial.
No, like I want to make it for myself as an art piece that has a longer ROI. It's not about ROI in the next year in the box office or the cinema. Yeah. It's about ROI, and like in 20 years when people look at that, will that move them, or will they remember it 20 years from now when they watch it? So I'll pay for it myself because my ROI is different than what my investor's ROI would be. You know what I'm saying?
I know perfectly what you're saying.
Right?
I even think that the best the dream formula for me as a filmmaker was always think of making films like, do like a commercial film and then have the money to do whatever the fuck you want, and then do another commercial film. And because, you know, also, and this I said because Guillermo del Toro once said it, you know, the way that I've been building my career was trying to do, you know, my movie and then trying to get the funds and the connections on the commercial side. Yeah. And then do again something that it was more of an author film than a commercial. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure it doesn't always work like a charm, you know, but that's kind of like the dream formula. And then you do something that it's completely free, you know, like artistic, and it might be a shitty film, but whatever, you're doing whatever you want, no?
There's very few filmmakers who are able to like thread the needle, between doing what they want and also making the commercial. There's very few. Yeah. And then, like you said, it's like one for me, one for them, one for me, one for them. Yeah. But still, I think, I don't know, I've left film. I don't watch films anymore. Yeah. And it's not because I'm addicted to the phone. It's because I'm more interested in the changing landscape of technology. Like, where's my phone? I like to use my phone, but like the thing that's well, I guess what I'm saying is like, I had a short film at Cannes, right? After 2 years going to Sundance, I had a film at Cannes. I'm like, what more do you want from a director? He's got two years in a row at Sundance, the 3 years at Cannes. Like, and I had a script ready to go. A project with a friend of mine who died in Misrata. He was a famous very incredible war photographer and artist. He died. And so I was ready, right, by the books. But like nothing happened. No real traction. 2 months after Cannes, I by accident put the short film on Vimeo. This is in 2011. It's 10 years ago. Put the short film on Vimeo, and I forgot to put the password.
So it was open.
It was open. This is still back in the day. We're like, don't put it online because you have to save the premiere, the festivals.
You can even get kicked out of the festival if like you
back
show
then.
It before. Yeah, I remember. Right? I was also doing short films by the time.
Right. So I realized I didn't put the password because Vimeo picked it up as short film of the week, and in 1 week I had 400,000 views.
That's cool.
And then I'm like, wait a sec, what game am I playing?
Yeah.
You know, like to me, cinema is modern day meditation because you get mainstream people to sit in a room to be focused. Their breathing pattern is consistent. They're not moving around. They're focused for 90 minutes. So it's like a modern day meditation. It's like, is that the game I want to play? Or do I want to look at this? I just got 400,000 people see my film in 1 week. I didn't do anything, but it all came through the phone, through online. So like, what game do I want to play? So it's like, you know what? Do I want to play this modern meditation game, which is interesting? Or do I want to inject ideas, propose ideas to the mainstream?
Yeah.
Well, if that's the idea, then digital is the way to go. Okay. Well, if digital is the way to go, why am I taking the binary experience of you either watch the film or you leave, or you watch the TV channel or you change it? That's the options. And plugging that, and that's what Netflix is now. But they're going to change. I've been saying this for 8 years already. But they're going to change where, you know, this phone, I do this every day on my phone. It calls my mom, tells me my schedule. If I give you my phone, what's my phone to you?
That's you.
Huh? It's nothing.
Okay.
Right? Like, if I give you my phone, what can you do with my phone?
No, nada.
Nada. But for me, it's everything. God forbid I lose my phone. I got to go find it.
Yeah.
Why isn't content like that? Why isn't content dependent on the user, on the like we call them catalyzers, because we make them. They make the content. They co-own it. It's like that candy. You know, do you remember candy Pop Rocks?
No.
There was like a candy that you took it when you put it in your mouth.
Of course. And yeah.
I see.
Different name.
Right.
Only,
What do you call it in Mexico?
Can't remember. But
it's not cactus candy. That's different.
No. I mean, obviously, there's like it was something pop also.
Right.
But yeah.
Pop rock. So I just see media like that. Like, it should come alive, because all day I'm typing on the phone and then I'm just going to sit here and watch. Yeah, that works. But why am I not continuing to engage? And why am I not making content that comes to life because I'm playing it? So it's like a blend of video games with media content, blend of movies with, and that's called, a lot of people say, oh, you're talking about interactive. No, interactive.
It's more than interactive.
It's more, because in interactive, and Soderbergh, who did a remake of Solaris, he did an interactive thing. I think HBO Max or even Netflix pushed it out, but that was still a choose your own adventure. You had multiple trails go, but you're choosing for a protagonist who's in the movie. That's not true interactive is I'm choosing for me. You know, like when you watch Game of Thrones and Jon Snow or whatever the big character, or any show, you're watching them do something. And then what? We're going to add a layer, interactive basic versions, like I make choices what the protagonist does. Yeah. No, why don't we make choices about me? And that's what I say about the phone is like, this phone to you means nothing, but to me it means everything. Why isn't everything we make on media like that? So instead of us talking about what happened to Jon Snow on Game of Thrones, we talk about, hey, what happened to you on Game of Thrones, man? What did you see? Oh, let me tell you what I saw. Right? It's kind of like the video game. How do you bring the video game? And now with technology, we can do that. So that's set me thinking, like, why am I spending my time making movies when, like, I'm really interested in this idea of, like, what I call interactive 2.0, and, like, how do you make that stuff alive and come into it and grow? And so I created this paradigm of, I call it interactive 2. It had 3 rules. And so I started applying that to my work when I created The Skin Deep. And that's what won the Emmy for The And, which we made for nothing. And then The Dig, we made for nothing, and we won awards with that. So just like, that's what I'm into now, is like, is more of like, how do you create experiences for people that recognize their contribution to it? Because everything we've ever made doesn't recognize the individual. The Mona Lisa, if you show up or you don't show up or a million people go there, the Mona Lisa does not change. The Beatles song, you listen to it now, you listen to it 10 years ago, or if you listen to it in 10 years, it's not going to change. Game of Thrones, the biggest TV show now, whatever show you watch, it's not going to change. It doesn't care if you watch it or not. Why? Why don't we make, now that we can, why are we not making media that changes when you engage with it?
Okay, that's very interesting.
That's what I'm about.
But do you
but that's my approach to media.
Yeah. And by that, do you mean like, does the content evolve, or does the experience of delivering the content evolve, or both?
Both.
Okay.
Both. So first you say, thanks for coming. You give an offering, and then you have to give them a sense that the experience only exists because they engage with it.
Okay.
Right? And then they engage with it, so they get a certain experience. Now, since we're humans, and in my opinion, we change all the time. We're changing. Some parts of us don't change, but other parts do.
Yeah.
I'm not who I am this week as was last week.
Yeah.
You know, and I won't be who I am the same in 3 months.
And communication hasn't been the same in the last 5 years than the last 50 years.
That's true.
Yeah.
And look what happened last year, this year. I mean, at least definitely in the U.S., and Mexico too. Things are shifting so rapidly. You're not who you were last week, last year, last month.
Yeah.
So when you play it today, you have one experience, and because it acknowledges who you are now. Therefore, if I come back a week from now or a month from now, I'm not going to have the same experience. So it's evolving like I'm evolving, right? And therefore, you create a deeper relationship with the content. So it's called Interactive 2.0, and it's that. It's like it has to be about the person. It can't be them making choices now. They make choices for themselves. It has to be a tool in their life. It's a tool.
Yeah.
It can't just be something I watch. Entertainment is a form of tool, granted. But if you can give them a deeper tool so that they use it, what does that mean? That means they're going to share it, right? Like, how often do you look at a postcard? Once. It's on your refrigerator? Maybe. How often do you use a good pen? All the time, right? Mm-hmm. And how likely are you to share that pen if you can, duplicate it for free? If I have a great tool, I'm going to tell you about it.
Yeah, if it helps your life, you're going to recommend it.
So when we did the And, for instance, we created the And.us, which is the thing that won the Emmy. Mm-hmm. We applied this methodology to that content. This is in 2015. Mm-hmm. And you basically came and you said, do you want to have a customized film about how you experience love in a relationship? Yeah. Answer these 4 questions. The 4 questions were random every time. You answer them. We had a library of conversations, right? Of people playing the And, where they're facing each other, asking each other questions. I brought a card for you as a gift.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course.
Gracias.
De nada. That's the healing edition.
Yeah, very cool, man.
But you come and you have experience, and it says, we've recorded all these conversations of people facing each other, like I have with my dad on the end.
Yeah.
And others. We did one we have conversations in Guadalajara. We take all the question and answer moments and give them a tag. Tags, many tags. So when you answer those 4 questions, it goes into the library and goes, here's a customized film for you.
Just one?
No, a compilation.
Okay.
So maybe you play once and you get a 6 question answer moments that last 2.5 minutes. Here you go, Amaury. Then you refresh, answer different questions. Oh, Amaury, here's 8 conversations.
Yeah.
4 minutes, right? So every time it's alive, it's responding to you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then it says, great, do you want to see all these other conversations? You can see this whole library. Great, now do you want to play this in your own life? Mm-hmm. Choose a deck, play right now. And that way it's a tool.
Okay.
So that was just a very simple way, and we structure media that way.
But you can go beyond that. I mean,
yeah. But
that's the beginning of an idea, no? Of a train of thought of how you can evolve this symbiosis of content and observer.
Totally.
And, no?
I think symbiosis is a great
symbiosis
word. I'm going to use that. Do you mind if I use that?
No, of course, man.
Yeah.
It's not yours or mine. It's everyone.
For real, yeah. But I'm really interested in that.
That's very cool, man. That's very interesting, because before you start saying, I obviously had a look of the things that you've done and your teams and different projects, but I always kind of leave something for the talk, because otherwise if I research you all the way through, then I'll know everything, and I'd rather have a certain amount of curiosity of what you've done, and then after this talk, obviously I'm more curious of knowing more. But before you said how it worked, I was thinking, how could that become something real, And then I say, well, instead of being choose your own adventure, you have like a certain kind of questions, not for you to choose, but for, in some way to interact with whatever software you're using or whatever, code, whatever, to maybe through your psychology help you choose whatever, you know, and the more advanced, the more precise. And it's not only that you're choosing, is that you're kind of having a dialogue, whatever the media is, and then something completely for you is coming out of that. No?
Well, that's what symbiosis, isn't it? It's like the symbiosis. It's like it comes out. It could not have happened if you weren't there.
Yeah.
So how do you make media like that? Because that's so valuable. It's like this conversation. If this conversation happened tomorrow, it wouldn't be the same conversation.
No.
If it happened 5 hours from now, it won't be the same. And if it was somebody else, it wouldn't be the same. How do you make media that feels like that? So it's profound because you realize, just like it's true for all of life, every moment is once in a lifetime. But we forget because we have our patterns. Every moment is once in a lifetime. Every interaction is once in a lifetime. Every conversation is once in a lifetime. You change any dynamic, it changes. How do you make content that reflects that? And it's totally possible now because we have technology. Not only that, but it's better suited for this stuff. Because we talked about like it's hard to make movies now because things are going so fast.
Yeah.
Well, also like movies require me to sit here and do this, but I'm spending so many hours engaging. So now I watch movies and I'm bored because it doesn't acknowledge my existence. And I think it should. That's a very
interesting idea. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's totally possible. We've done that also with I don't know if you had a chance to check it out, but if you take a moment, you check out thedig.tv, which also won a few awards that are pretty impressive. That was all about the shifting landscape of relationships. So the invitation was, do you want to see where you fit in the scope of all these shifting relationships, where your opinion falls in relation to everyone else? Because people are co-parenting, people are having sex with dolls, people are putting implants into their heads. We found all these incredible stories that's like really speaking of the future. And we say, let's find out what your opinion is about that in relation to everyone else's opinion. Because, it's pretty incredible when you apply that methodology to content, which Amazon and Netflix are about to do. They're not there yet because they take forever.
They're doing something, but in a different perspective. No, it's a more sort of like a monetary perspective, whatever. But if they shift their attention to use the same technology, but because they're still But this is what I'm talking about. Like build social platforms. Yeah, and they still sell a media company maybe. So they're thinking like, oh, we need a star to attract the attention. We need this instead of what's the value offering that grows with time and engages with the user, because the user, I don't like using that word, it's catalyzer, because they're catalyzing. But how do you create that experience? And you'll see that. Mark my words. We'll watch this podcast in 5 years and you'll see Netflix will make that. Yeah. And no doubt it's going to happen. It's just, I thought it would happen already. And I've been talking about this for 8 years, and no, you tell me. I interrupted. No, but like for me, I haven't talked like this for many years because, this is how I talked when I first started my company for 4 years, and it's great. But people go, great. What's the business model? Where's the money? Yeah. And all this talk is great, but you win awards, great, but where's the money? And for me, it's never been about money. But when I realized money is energy, it's like if I put out energy, I get energy back. And that excess energy people call profit, but it's actually excess energy that then I can do more. I can give more. If you invest it more. Otherwise, it'll stay there or whatever. Or eat me up inside. So how do you recycle? So when I realized that, I said, okay, well, let me make this sustainable. And also, like, I think I put on your questionnaire, but I was so focused on creating things of value, but I wasn't focused on this energy. So I was putting out energy. I wasn't getting energy back. Yeah. And I got my version of depression, which, I wasn't taking medication. But for me, it was hard to get out of bed. I get to work at 9, but I was up at 7. For me, that's tough. I just say that because I know that some people have serious bouts with depression. So I fully respect that. But for me, I was depressed and I had back pain. I still walk funny. I'm still healing that. I got to a point where it's like, I'm doing all this cool work with my team, but I can't pay them enough. I don't have health insurance for them. I can't afford them bonuses. They're going to have children and families, and we're not able to pay them. I got to figure out a way to make this sustainable. And then I just stopped for them. That was 5 years ago? That was in the end of 2017. Okay. And I had to let go of like 8 people on my team, which was really painful. And they were so missional. We were all together. And I kept one, Nicholas and I
we just started from the grounds and we're going to simplify. We're just going to sell card games. Mm-hmm. Which is funny. This is like 3 months before I met my wife, now Ikari, here in, Tapatia, Guadalajara. Mm-hmm. And I remember when I met her, she's like, what do you do? I'm like, I sell questions. Right? But if it was before that, it was like a year before, what do you do? I would have given her the whole spiel that I just gave you.
Pitch and,
So I haven't talked about
trying
this.
to change the way the media is.
It's like, what? Where's the money? Like, what? So then I was like, I sell questions. And she's like, cool. So this guy, people pay him for his questions? Yeah. So for the last 2.5 years, 3 years, 2018, 19, 20. So we're in our 4th year of really building a sustainable business that's purely selling questions. And now we have enough energy, excess energy, that we can start going back to building like new things that offer value. This offers intense amount of, and this has a full, the and is basically, the idea of the and is it's about the space between. Because a relationship is not you or I, us or them. It's you and I, us and them. It's the and. It's el y. Connect, like in Spanish, it's el y, no?
It's this thing that connects us. It's not yours or mine. It's another completed self thing, no?
Eso. How do you sprinkle some dust so it reveals the thread that connects us? That's what the and is. Yeah. So with that, we're building the Wikipedia of human relationships.
Okay.
We're building the core of human emotion. This huge library of conversations around the world, as many that will participate. And we're going to tag that and then tag that and transcribe and all, and basically make it searchable. Okay. So that I can query my questions or my concerns or things that I want to be reminded about through this library.
Okay.
And I can see it and feel it and hear it. And I can see, we're making accessible the relationships of the people who participate. I like to say the relationships on the planet, but it's not the planet. It's whoever participates.
Yeah.
So we're making all the relationships of those who participate.
It keeps growing. So eventually might have a very good amount of world people, no?
Well, yeah. I mean, and it's more about, So we're making the tool, and whoever uses the tool is there, but then they can query it. That's what we're building. That's the full vision of the and. And then we have a few other ideas that have their own full vision that are tools for people. They're like that because I mean, you're talking about transmutation for the individual. Mm-hmm. But man, we're like transmuting as a society, as a culture, as a collective now. It's like very fast, and it's quite painful liberating for some and quite painful for others. This is an epic time. I mean, our grandkids will be chatting and they'll be like, man, what do you think it was like in 2020, in the year of the Great Pandemic? Yeah. You think it was crazier than 1930s or the Great Depression? What do you think was harder to live through? The Great Depression or the Great Pandemic? They'll be thinking about that because so much is shifting now.
Yeah, I agree.
That it's just grateful to be alive right now and be able to do things like this. You're putting out work. We're putting out work, yeah.
But I think there's 2 ways to live it. I think there's the ones who, they're been wiped out by the wave, and not having any idea of what's going on and being very worried or panic. I'm not judging them. I'm just saying, there's people who are not having this conversation that we're having in this perspective. And I think the ones that at least we're not egocentric enough to say, okay, this is what's happening, because nobody can say really what's happening in terms of history in the last 50 years or whatever, but we kind of sense that this is getting crazier, no? Like things are going fast, and the subject of the relationships, it's so mind-blowing for me, because I think that the relationships are shifting. I feel it. Like I don't think that, my parents, when they were growing up and becoming themselves, and then a little bit later on, they were struggling to try to find out how to have relationships. And I think that we're struggling, there's times, and that's even one of the things that I wanted to start this podcast for, because I felt that, I was not having the conversations that I wanted to have, because I think that all this changes and maybe it's a cultural thing. Maybe it's only in Mexico. Maybe, but I would keep having these sensations of what's going on. People are not communicating enough. This thing is supposed to, and it's doing it. It's communicating us. We're inventing this thing. Sometimes I see this thing like birds in a big group of birds. They have their way to communicate themselves, to move in the same direction, or fishes in the water. And I think we're kind of like doing the same thing, Wow. But we're just not there yet,
Wow, that's a great analogy. So you mean like the school of fish and the birds, and we're doing the same thing here, basically. Different groups. Wow.
Yeah,
that's
I think that we're one organism as a species, and of course we have our individuality and our wants and our dreams and our love to another person. Of course we can be individual beings, but at the same time we're one organism, and we see in nature that when one organism lives in nature, there's always a way to communicate itself with itself. If you see a colony of ants, it's the perfect example of nature telling us they're all communicating in some way. They're communicating by waves. They're communicating by smells, by by traces of chemicals in the soil. Fungi. We know that fungi in a forest, one fungi is connected to another fungi through spores and through connections. In the roots or whatever. Trees. They of course they touch each other. They're in the roots. They're touching each other. We know that, for example, fireflies. There's a theory that fireflies behave that way because they're copying the way that trees communicate.
Really?
There's this theory that say, there's this pattern of how fireflies, go on and off. It's really mimicking what the trees are doing in a forest.
Wow.
And,
that's amazing. I didn't know that.
And I think that all living species or all living beings in the planet are they have this necessity, almost biological necessity to communicate. And we now have this tool. Obviously we see it as something that it's apart from ourselves, because we see it, and you don't consider this as something part of your body. It's not made of meat,
but it's coming.
But it is. It is. It's a tool. It's an extension. It's an extension of ourselves. It's an extension of our brain. We don't have the capacity to, to storage all this kind of data and photos or videos, but this thing can. Yeah. And we're more connected to this thing that we fully understand at this moment. And when you say about relationships, and while you were explaining, I was having this chain of thoughts in my head saying, of course, because the behind the necessity of communicating is the necessity of relating to each other. One thing that you said just now, we have changed many things, but there's some things that still, we still have. And one of the things I think is never going to change between us is the necessity of relating to each other. No matter how hermit you want to be or whatever or not, you want it or not, you need to connect with other human beings. And I think that sometimes we can see the new digital era as this pushing technology, that it's changing us, maybe in a good way, maybe in a bad way, but at the end it's just us wanting to connect more and to relate more. And I think we're finding out if this thing really connects us. And that's why there's sometimes that, sometimes you cannot have a conversation with someone in person now, and then you rather have it on messages because it's a tool, like you said. And sometimes you find out that, you're kind of missing this thing with your friends that a chat group would not give you, and then you're pushing for everybody to get together but once you're together, everybody's having other conversations. We're like kids with new toys, and I think we're gonna be for a while now, or maybe faster than we think.
Oh yeah,
but it's hard. It's hard for the mind. It's hard for the emotions. I don't think we're grasping how fast this is going, this process of getting used to trying to find out to communicate with many people at the same time. Yeah. Because before, you had to kind of like sit down and have individual conversations. Now you can have conversation at the same time with a lot of people. Yeah. And I think that is changing us. But the fact that we still want to connect and have relations, it's going to still be there. And it's going to be as strong as ever has been, you know?
I mean, everything you're saying is why the Skin Deep as a company exists. Those are the questions we're asking ourselves.
Yeah.
Is how do we rethink how we connect? How do we refeel how we connect in lieu of these incredible dynamic changes that are happening? In lieu of the fact that we as human beings are programmed to adapt very well.
Yeah.
Like
that's evolution at
evolution.
Its best.
I can't remember. I was, when I first used email, I was 99 in 1999, 23 years ago. I can't imagine what it was, and I was 23, 22. I can't imagine doing email before that. Like what it was like. What I'm saying is I can't imagine what it was like to not have email, right? I can't imagine what is it to not have a cell phone.
Yeah.
Right? Because it becomes so normal in life. Now, just look at COVID. Everyone's having Zoom meetings. Mm-hmm. Now we're coming out of COVID. People still want to do Zoom meetings.
Yeah.
People still want to live remote. Like it's easier. And almost like I don't even know why I go to physical meetings anymore. It's just easier to just do it on Zoom.
Yeah.
And that's only a year and a half change. Like now going to meetings is something unique. In the past, you couldn't get anything done unless you met in person. Now it's like, and it's only a year and a half. But now we're almost taking Zoom meetings for granted. Yeah, everything's fine. So I think it's amazing how quickly we adapt. And I think everything you're saying is exactly why, literally, it's the world that the Skin Deep is in. And we started in 2014 of saying, wow, all this stuff's happening before COVID. There's like all these changes. Let's create tools for people so that as they ride this wave that's basically from a flood.
Yeah.
It's like people talk about social media good and bad. It's like, who cares? It's here.
Yeah. It's happening.
It's happening.
It doesn't matter if you think it's good or bad. It's happening.
Like, so what responsibility are you taking?
Yeah.
That's like the question I ask and my team, we ask. What are we doing now to just bring a little bit of conscientiousness or presence now? 2 millimeters now. But if we give 2 millimeter shift now, in 100 years, that's a mile apart. Miles apart.
Yeah, like planes. Like if you divert a little bit. After 30 minutes, you're like, 100 miles divert from your route. No?
Yeah. So I agree with you. I mean, everything, those are the questions I'm really interested in asking.
I feel very related, man. Let me tell you a quick story because when I was as you were, I imagine I was a film maniac when I was a kid. I love films. Yeah. I want to be a filmmaker. I went to New York. I studied filmmaking. I was introduced, I saw like many art films or whatever not, but in New York I really delve into the world of, filmmaking, like watching post-war Italian films and studying directors, Tarkovsky, Ingmar Bergman, and like I really got caught up by art cinema and documentaries and going to Angelica Film Theater and so when I swift my attention to saying, okay, I don't want to just do films. I want to do films that promote consciousness and I used to call it film for consciousness, no? And so I got caught up by that for a while, and I went into documentary. I did like a couple of short films and documentaries because I felt like I was no longer a part of the generation that just wanted to do films. I think that was over. I felt like that was over, and the next thing, like you were saying, is what can we do with films? Films is so powerful stories, and nowadays with the internet, I start doing my own films and putting them out in Vimeo, and I remember perfectly what you were saying about your short film because when Vimeo was at a best time, they were releasing this short of the week, and I was very inspired by that and by Vice as well. By saying we need to do more of with film than just entertaining, and then it kind of like fade away a little bit, because of other things. But nowadays, I think this conversation, and like you said, I've been saying this for 8 years, and I've been trying to find out what's that. And I think that now it's happening what I felt that it was going to happen back then. That stories and video content has become even more important in films. And my film friends are gonna kind of like hate me because for them it's like this this untouchable romantic of films, and I love that too. I see, I hope that cinemas won't go away ever, but it will become something different that we grew up with. Cinemas are gonna be like I think it's going to be like going to the opera or going to the theater. It's something that that you want to be into, but not like when we were kids that it's like you got to go to the films once a week because this movie is out and you have to watch it because otherwise you will be out of the conversation or whatever not. And now with the internet, I think that's over. It's, it's sad because you feel a nostalgia going on, but it is what it is, And I'm just saying this because it's so cool to have this conversation with someone that I was watching the talks in Deep Skin, and I've been in the last couple of months I've been looking to different content makers of having these interviews. Obviously, I'm watching all this to try to like get inspired of what we can do with this podcast, And what I when I saw the first videos of Deep Skin, I was very moved by saying, how can we use this highway that it's been built by the need of people to watch content, because nowadays it's like you spend most of the day, like you work, whatever not, and then there's a very big amount of time during your day that you want to watch something, and if you get caught by, if you're the kind of person that you're looking for watching things that improve yourself, there's a vast now quantity of contents, but I think there's so much that it's hard to just say, this is made for me, And I think that's the key of what's going to happen in content making in the next year. I don't know if I'm making any sense, but when you were saying we're thinking of how to evolve this interactive that it's become, at the same time I'm thinking, well, it's good that things evolve, the contents are evolving of what you want, but at the same time, there needs to be a way to sort of like try to storage everything that you've seen, and that that it has helped you and it doesn't go away. Why do I mean? I'm saying, for example, you see something that at this moment in your life, 2021, September 2021, you saw something that it moved you. It made you choose experience. You saw this conversation between two people who you say, okay, I'm very moved by this and I've changed because of watching this. And then years pass. And then if you don't preserve that thing will go away and you will never see it again, But if you're giving importance to that and you some way storage it, and then after a while of watching different types of content, then whatever this algorithm or whatever this software is will storage everything you've seen, and it will help you either to connect much better with new content or to go back at certain moments to the content that help you at certain moment. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Totally. I think what comes up for me is the idea of like, you're talking about like, what comes up for me when that image is like storing this old thing you've seen is like the blockchain, like lock that in the ledger of your content that's affected you. So you can always go back and see it. And then it's like antique furniture that just like increases in value over time. Or like a picture. If we took a picture of us now, we look at it, we don't care much about it. But if we came back a year from now, we looked at the picture like, oh yeah, I remember it. Yeah. And if we came back in 25 years and we took a picture, we'd be like, wow. The picture has not changed. You and I have changed, and our relationship to that has changed because of time. Yeah. So it increases value. And if you could do that with media, right? Of like, maybe like, just like we do with our photo albums.
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe take key moments from your life, and maybe, because we all know that content affects us, like your drinks. Omni, what you eat affects you.
Everything
what you watch,
everything that we see, everything that we
and
do,
so some pieces of content really affect you.
Yeah.
And others are more on a subconscious level over time. But everyone can remember like the first movie that blew their mind. Everyone can remember the movie that they cried. Everyone can remember like the song that moved them. And what if you just like highlighted? I'm just riffing off of your thing, which is great. It's like, what if you created a trail that never changed it? You could always come back and be like, oh, yes, I remember that. I remember that movie that affected me in that way. Or like, in some way, we're actually doing that with the app.
Yeah.
Because we're enabling people to have conversations through the end, and they can record it.
Okay.
And then at the end of the recording, you can make it public, which means your friends can see it, and we can transcribe it. Or you make it private, which no one touches, and it's just like you and I keep that recording so that in 10 years we can look back on it.
In the same format, like two people talking and...
Yeah, totally. It's amazing.
I know why you asked about the table now. Because you don't have anything in between the people, right?
Yeah, because that's on purpose. There's a lot of tricks that we have to create the space.
Yeah. Well, this is not made for separating each other. It's
made for COVID.
Not
for
really.
Distance?
No, it's just to hold the microphones and to have drinks and whatever not in the table. But
if you ever want to riff on how to if you ever want to riff on some ideas, I'm happy to. I love doing that. And frankly, it's been so long since I've done something like all my creativity has gone into building a business.
Yeah.
Which for so long I'm like, I'm a filmmaker, I'm an artist, I'm a story breaker.
It's important, man. You need that too.
Yeah. Well, what to learn? Wouldn't you need what?
Well, you need to I've met. I'm not saying it's your case, but I met very talented people that they thought that they would never look at the aspect of business of what they do. I'm not just talking about filmmaking. I'm talking about music, talking about plastic art or whatever. And they haven't been able to or weren't able to do that shift of creativity to say, okay, I'm a talented artist and I need to put my attention to this, but now this is what I need my attention. And there's two kind of artists. The ones that say, okay, now I have to put my creativity into finding out how to make this sustainable.
Yeah.
And for me to go back and do more, you said it a couple of minutes ago perfectly. And there's people who say, I can't do the business side.
Yeah.
We all can do business, it's business is the basic of human relationships. And it's as simple as you can see it. Obviously it can get very intricate or whatever not, but there's always people who know more than you that can help you and give you a little portion of what I can do. But I think it's very important creativity for business. I am someone who was, who grew up thinking that I will dedicate all my energy into into a creative kind of like environment. And now that I'm completely opposite in a very business oriented model and financial decisions, I'm thankful for my creativity. Otherwise I wouldn't be able to do what I do now,
right.
Right. And now I've learned so much of letting go the aspect of thinking, no, I'm just good at being creative, or filmmaker or whatever.
Yeah.
Then I know that when I come back to that, I will have much better tools than what I had before.
Totally. No,
just by decision making, trouble solving, micromanagement or macro management of people in a team. The ability that I learned through business of team management, it'll directly help me for anything artistic that I want to do or creative,
Yeah. Why is this book here?
That's my dad on a sunbath.
That's your dad?
So we did this book recently and we've been having it on the table to promote it. So it's a book about
my
dad's life. Yeah.
Without a mustache?
Without a mustache, yeah. So it's basically his life in pictures.
Wait, this is the same guy?
Yeah. That's when he started, and that's
when he started?
Yeah.
these are two different guys.
Yeah.
Which is interesting. We're talking about the creativity and it's like a transformation is necessary.
Oh, yeah.
And the thing in the middle is called life, I think. Like for me, I was not going to make that change until I was depressed in bed and so much back pain I couldn't walk. And I just hit the bottom where I was like, this is not sustainable. And if I don't figure it out, it's like and now I'm doing that. And now I'm looking forward to getting back into I actually love what I do. Thank God. I somehow found something that I love.
It looks like,
yeah. And I just love, and I have a great team that I work with. But it's really interesting to see how like transformation right there.
Oh yeah, and I mean, there's very cool things, and the way we, I say we of course, but the designers and all the creativity put into, we kind of like always try to like pick, show you the.
Is that you?
No, that's my little sister.
You're the oldest?
Somewhere else. I'm the second oldest. That's my father. So my father's love for films came because an uncle of his was the writer of some El Santo pictures. You know El Santo, right?
Yeah.
The wrestler. Yeah. The famous, like pop culture.
Wait, so where's your dad?
So he's my dad.
This is your dad?
Yeah, and this is the film set for a movie of El Santo versus vampires, and this is like a villain luchador and the Santo. Wow. They're taking a picture with the prop of the film. I was trying to find out like another kind of like past and future moment. This is when my dad bought the team of Chivas. So it's kind of like, it's not chronological, but it is in some way, telling like different moments of his life. And so maybe for the beginning.
Is this for the 30th anniversary?
Not necessarily. It was a coincidence that we kind of like launched it this year, but it was more propelled by the departure of my dad. Mm-hmm. And
so is this the first thing to come out since he passed?
Yeah, exactly. So it's the first book.
So man,
hopefully I'll do more. Look, for example, this is the plane that he owned. We had a beautiful BBJ jet that he bought and he built for having his people to fly with him to the different events. This is a picture of him like.
Is this you?
Yeah, that's me.
How old are you here?
Must be like 10, 11.
Oh, so you 11. Okay? Wow.
Yeah.
So
that's a smaller jet though.
Oh, small, but like, do you remember a time when your dad was not doing this?
No.
So for you, that was his identity. That was what he was doing since you. Tell me, do you like hark back? You don't have to answer this, and I'm sorry to bring it up, but I'm just wondering, because I'm sure it must be hard to But do you like when you're having a challenge, or some shit go down or something, like? What line of his or what like motto of his comes up? Because I'm sure there's got to be a motto. Like, what's the motto, or what's like some of the key ones?
Well, I could answer that in different ways. There's one thing that I do very often is that when I'm in a hiccup or like a major problem, like the most difficult decisions or problems, I kind of like recall, or in some way, like in some profound way, I kind of like relive my father, the emotion, because now it's an emotion, it's a memory, it's a feeling of love, it's all this that it's in me. When people say your loved ones never leave you, right. I do believe it, because I've been living it for the last couple of years since my dad passed away. So a lot of things that I do, I think, what would my dad do? What, and I even say my dad. I say, what would Jorge do? All that my father implies, and it does help me a lot. It does help me because for me, it's such an inspiring way that the way he did things, that it doesn't matter if it's wrong or right. The kind of like the summoning of my father's energy,
right?
It just makes me feel that I'm moving forward, that I'm making a decision forward.
Is there a motto for that energy? When you think of it? Well,
and then that's like the most sort of like very profound, which is hard to explain because it's a very strong feeling and profound and loving feeling. Yeah. And then there's other kind of like more intellectual, I might say, things that I think of my father. And one of them, which is great, and I do use it a lot, is in certain aspects, my father said, "El que obra mal, se le pudre el tamal." So in English would be like, if you do wrong, your crop will die, or you will say like it's a game of words. El que obra mal, so whoever does bad, his tamal, a tamal, food, will rot or it will pester, or it will die. So, but tamal is such a symbolic food because it comes from the corn, and the corn is like the most basic food that we have in Mexico. Yeah. So it also relates to whatever kind of like you reap what you saw. It's kind of like that, you reap what you saw. Yeah. But it's more targeted to like if you do wrong, it'll come back and bite you back. Right. That's one that I use a lot. And many people use it too. There's another one which inspires me to kind of like work every day, which is un día sí y el otro también. Like if you want to have success, you have to work one day and the other two, you know? And that it's amazing. It's so simple and it makes sense. It doesn't mean that you become a workaholic and, you're an asshole to everyone because you're only working every day. But if you really want something, you really have to work for it. There's no other way. Mm-hmm. You could be very talented, and I'm sure there's genius people that maybe with one thing they'll become very successful from one day to another. But every successful person that I know, there's a something that they all have, and it's a period of time where they really work every day. And it doesn't mean that every day you're in the street doing whatever you do, but at least you're thinking about it. You're putting your energy to it. And my dad used to say that a lot, and I think that it has helped a lot of people to become better just by thinking, if I want to achieve this, I have to work one day and the other two. There's another one which is very funny too, because it's paciencia y salivita. And so it's the whole thing is paciencia y salivita, le dijo elefante a la hormiguita, y 1000 años después nació el oso hormiguero. So patience and saliva. That's what the elephant said to the ant, and 1,000 years later, the how do you call it in English? This animal that eats ants.
The anteater.
The anteater. So it's a kind of like a double meaning thing. It's kind of saying the elephant had sex with the ant. Yeah. And 1,000 years later, you have the anteater. How? With patience and saliva. Wow. It's beautiful. In English sounds much dirtier than in Spanish.
Spanish has a good, it's a thing.
You can get away with it in Spanish. In English, it sounds much dirtier. But you don't say it all together. Just say patience and saliva. It's like almost like when you also like you're doing something and you kind of like you concentrated to it, and you even like you and I don't know. That's powerful too. Like you have to work thoroughly, but at the same time be patient. Yeah. Because good things don't come one day to another. Even if you work very hard, there's a lot of things that it's constant, is persistence, and it takes a while. It takes a while. No, that's some of them. Yeah, I don't know. What you were expecting, like that kind of like a model?
No, I was just wondering.
Yeah.
The one my dad tells me is stick to your values and be ready to eat shit.
Okay.
Just like stick to your values.
That's very wise.
Just keep going.
Yeah.
So I think that one I remember.
That's very wise.
You know, just and I stick to my values all the time.
Yeah.
Which I hear in your dad's thing is actually it's very similar to your dad. Was like do that's good, which is your values, and then every day go to work, which is get ready. Like you just keep going.
Yeah.
Don't stop.
Yeah, I do use them a lot, and that one is very good too. I'm gonna remind it as well because I think that now with all this, kind of like coming back to the subject of digital era and information, I do think that with all this happening, the values of people are kind of like unstable, with the pandemic. I don't know, you saw some group of friends, you saw who became a better person during the pandemic, and you saw who just became even more of an asshole or just a worse person during the pandemic. Like when things are unstable, when the world it's in a challenging place, it takes the best out of people or the worst out of people. And I think it has to do with that, sticking to your values, because values are so easy to be lost. Yeah. Does that make any sense?
Yeah. Well, it's like, yeah.
With all this changing, Well,
the thing is, the thing I find out is the analogy I keep coming back to that I see in my head is like, when you have a ball of yarn that you sew with, when it's tightly packed, I can throw you the ball, you throw it back, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. Before COVID, everyone had their ideas and their values and da-da-da. They knew if they were left or right, if they were whatever.
Yeah.
They knew their identity. It was packed in, right? They knew who their family was. And okay.
Yeah.
Then COVID comes, and the States, the whole population with Black Lives Matter, like, woke up. And now, like, there are disagreements within families about COVID. Like, do I come over with the mask or not? Do I need a quarantine or not? Now with the vaccine, it's lessened down. But like last year, the connection between people is loosened up in the sense that, like, we might be in the same family, but we have different ideas about how to respond to this, how to respond to that. Like not the enemy, but the antagonist. Like if you go back to World War II, it was like Germans against the English and the Japanese against the Americans. It was all very clear, like cultural nationality. That was where the enemies, and it's very clear who the enemy is, right? But now the enemy is like, and not even that, like when COVID started, your family, your best friend comes over and you're wondering if you can hug them or not, because regardless of their intentions, they may have COVID.
Yeah.
So all of a sudden, physiologically,
or they don't want to get touch or
right. But I'm saying, like, not that they're not an enemy, but in terms of like how you could be hurt is not so clearly defined anymore, and the way we respond to that is different amongst everybody, so that the threads that connected us got loose, so that we can no longer throw that ball now. Now we have to really heal that to bring it back together. And I think that's like, there's a big challenge that we're having. And with the algorithms set in the social media, those are not bred to bring us more cohesion. They're actually bred to bring us apart because algorithms we know, or my opinion of algorithms, I should say, is, my impression of algorithms, that they are known to spread fear and maybe misinformation. Then those pieces of content spread faster than like the truth or like humanity. And I think that's what is partially what's disconnecting us.
But you don't think that the problem roots in us giving more importance to ideas than to human, like the most basic human interaction?
But because of COVID, we're not human interacting. We're all interacting through this. And this is being fed to us through the algorithms.
Yeah, but at the same time, because we're not having, we're feeling the lack of it,
Yeah.
And the appreciation of it. But the problem lies in us being so so addicted or so obsessed with ideas in this new human world, then when this happened, this ball of yarn gets loosened, and we feel like, because we know there's been fights in family of who gets vaccination and who's not, and who's whatever not. I don't think not one single family had a discussion about it. Not only about vaccination, about
everything,
what to do of getting together, of if you're going to the wedding or not. Do not go to a wedding, whatever not. And that's because we've been so disconnected of the importance of the little things, the little interactions. Then when this ball gets loosened, we're given still so much importance to ideas that at the end of the day, ideas are just that, are just ideas, ideologies, or positions, or political sides, or whatever. And the importance is, I think the most valuable lesson about last year is just that. It's saying it doesn't matter what ideas we have, if you're right or left. What you cannot change is the most basic things in a family, which is love, union, connection. And those things are beneath, not because they're lower in importance, but they're more grounding than whatever ideas you have. Right. You know what I mean?
Totally. But I think that we're evolving as a consciousness. You said that humanity is like a species or an organism.
Like one single organism.
I see it as a consciousness. And we're evolving, and now we're stepping into greater conflict so that when we resolve it, we'll be elevated.
Yeah.
And the only way for us to elevate is to go through conflict. Yeah. If you look at anything we do,
of course,
when you exercise, you got to push yourself to the point of exhaustion a little bit more, and the next day you're stronger. When you look at a relationship, when you fight, if you work your way through the fight, you'll come out stronger and feeling more sense of intimacy. So as a culture, society now, I think this conflict we're having is a blessing. Mm-hmm. And we're in it now because the question is, how do we step into that conflict? How do we handle that in a way of mutual trust and respect? But in the belief, and this is where it gets dangerous, is that if we don't believe that we're going to come out elevated and we think we're in this all the time, you're always in this negative thing. But if you're like, no, I understand that there's conflict and there's energy in this conflict, that if we use it right, if we utilize it right, if we handle it right, we can elevate as individuals, as a community, as a society, as a nation. We can do that. And I think that's just what we're going through now.
Yeah.
And for me, a big part that we're losing with the algorithm, social media, and just with all is the ability to listen. Mm-hmm. I think especially this is not the Instagram, for instance, is not built for listening. Instagram is built for the selfie. Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. It's just built. It created a selfie, built for that. So it's all about me talking. I have my own distribution channel. I'm talking. No one's listening. And one thing about the Skin Deep is we create the space for listening. You're watching two people talk. Imagine me trying to pitch this 8 years ago to some. Mm-hmm. Hey.
No, it wasn't the time.
They're like, no. Well, we started 2015. No one would put money. We just started. It's like, I want to film two people talking. You're like, It's like the Seinfeld show. It's a show about nothing. About two people. But it's creating a space for listening. And I think there's many ways to listen, but I think that's to me, one angle of helping us get out is actually practicing listening instead of talking.
But by listening, what do you mean? Like the two persons that are listening to each other, or the person who's observing?
Both.
Okay.
Both. It's happening to both, right? Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. I think that's what. But I also mean just generally in society is. What if we just took a different approach, and instead of posting people talking, you posted people listening, and the version of that is instead of people giving answers, people ask questions.
Yeah.
And I think that's one thing I've learned from this project is, especially in Western society, we're so focused on the solution. If you have the answer, you're it.
Yeah.
But we don't take the time to say, well, are we asking the right question? Or can we ask a better question? Yeah. And if you actually focus on asking the question, a really good question, the answer becomes obvious. So we put so much energy in the answer because we're so production oriented. Yeah. Western culture is so much about what are we making? What are we producing? Mm-hmm. What if we focus on the question? They're playing, what are they playing? They're playing the website?
Well, just to have an idea of what are we talking about.
Well, this is the end. This is the trailer of basically people of all shapes and sizes and cultures and talking to each other, asking each other questions. And the whole spectrum of human experience.
What you just said was very important. Just are we asking the right questions? And I know exactly what you're saying. Sometimes it's even more productive to ask questions than really having the answers.
Yeah,
that's simple.
That's simple. I'm telling you, that deck of cards. I'm telling you, go play that with your sisters. That's going to be so powerful. Go play with anybody. I just brought that. That's the healing edition, and I only brought that because that's the last deck I had at home. It's the only one I had, so I brought that. But
so there's example. Well, I mean, there's like 3 examples here. What do you treasure most about our relationship? Then there's another one. What do you think there is for others to learn from our relationship? When do you think was the last time I healed something through you? Wow,
right?
Pretty cool.
You ask different questions. You have to come up with an answer. So instead of saying like. If you ask the question, how does this conflict make us better? So instead of you focusing on like, this guy's pissing me off, we have a conflict, oh my God, how can I convince him? Say, okay, how is this conflict making us better? Oh, okay, well, I have to like pivot the whole, and you're making a new neuron connection. And you're like pivoting the whole thing that like, wait, conflict doesn't necessarily have to be bad. It could be better. It make things better. Let's talk about that. So there's so much power in the question, just shifting. So you're in a room full of people and say like, "What's our company about?" Is that a good question? Let's instead of going to talk, let's answer that question. Let's spend 5 minutes really honing in on the question. My wife and I are looking for a place to live. Where are we going to live next? Ooh, that's a big question. What if I tweaked that question and said, "Where's a place that we could live that inspires us for the next 2 years?" Okay, well, that's an easier question. That's a more clear answer.
Yeah, it right? Just opens up the path. Huh?
Inspiring. Where's a place that inspires me and leads a healthy living? Oh, just put the question, shape the question. Yeah. The answer becomes obvious. And we're so, in the West, we're so focused on what do you do? What's the answer? What are you producing? What are you delivering? Whoa, let's slow down. What's the question? What's the question? And like that's where there's power. And like these questions, it's like our questions are incredible because they're about the space between. It's not about, hey Amaury, what do you think about love? What do you think about friendship? Our question is like, what do you think I think about friendship? So now it's about or like, how do we value another layer to but things, it's about the space between, right? It's about something that we can like.
And how do you elaborate the questions? I mean, do you have like a certain methodology to do them?
Yeah, I have one, and I work with it, and I train my team on it, and we and
it's an exercise of not just yourself, like it's a
these questions are coming. Initially, they came just from my instincts, like because I'm really interested in asking questions, come from my youth and what shaped me as a child.
Yeah.
But now it's about we film all the time, conversation all the time. We see what works in the real space, and we hear them asking each other questions, or we ask each other questions. Oh, that's good. Okay. So we compile lists, and then mostly I'm leading when we write questions. I lead that process, and then our team jumps in and we collaborate. And we're like, oh, that's a good one. Let's mix that up. What do you think about this list? Let's take these out. Let's put it. And then every round of printing, we improve them, right?
Yeah.
We improve them. We're always looking for questions. Do we replace the deck with new questions, or do we create a whole new deck? And
how many decks do you have?
12.
So
we have 12 decks right now, and we have 12 decks. Like co-work with the self deck, which is probably my favorite. The healing. Amusing, friends, long-term couples, dating, strangers, on racism. That's a powerful one.
Wow.
That one. And we give 3% of our profits to charity, and certain decks, all the profits go to charity. So on racism, all the money that goes to 3 different charities because we collaborate.
The racism, do you have it for like a Black Lives Matter movement?
Yeah, because that came out cool. And it's it's really focused on the American audience and what's happening in that country, and we're thinking about collaborating with other partners on racism in different countries, because the racism in Mexico is different than the racism, different levels, different histories. And
I have in this podcast, we already had like a couple conversations about the difference between racism in the States and racism in Mexico, which is
totally different.
Totally different, but we're next to each other.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, I mean, there's race. So we make different decks. We would make different decks on subjects that are specific to the culture, that acknowledge their history and where they're coming from. So this on racism is specific to the U.S., but also, for us, as we build our company and the Skin Deep, it's really important to me, that, we walk the walk. Like, we're holding the space for these conversations between all our participants, who are really the core of our project, because they have the courage and they step into our space. But we as a company have to do that too. In our company, we have Mexican team members, we have a Dutch team.
Do you have them in Spanish?
We have the three decks are coming out in November.
Okay, cool.
Dating, healing, couples in November, and we're selling in Mexico.
Dating, healing, and couples. Okay.
We're starting with that in Mexico.
That's very cool.
And we're hoping to, start selling those.
Is there any deck oriented to like a working space, like a working team, co-worker?
It's great.
That's cool, man.
It's great. Like
that's very cool.
Like, a question I really love for that one is like, what value do we have that our clients don't?
What value do we have that our clients don't?
That our clients do not.
Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Or like, how would you describe what we do to your grandchildren? Or even better, how would you describe what we do to my grandchildren? Then it's about our connection.
Yeah.
Right? How does, the thing is also like, how do our differences make us better? How do we complement each other to make something symbiotic? So I've just learned from 8 years of this, we have over like 1,400 conversations that we've held a space for, just the power of the questions. So yeah, I do that all the time. The first instinct is like, you stub your toe and you're like, why does this shit happen to me? Well, then make it better. Like, how, what's the gift in this shit that just happened to me? And let's deepen it. Like, how is this shit the fertilizer for the rose that I'm going to become? What's the gift in this accident?
Yeah.
What's the gift in this conflict?
No?
What is the pearl? And when you tweak that, anyways, that's something that.
And what are the testimonies? So, I mean, I'm sure you have
the testimonies here are amazing.
Do you have them somewhere? Like,
oh yeah, we have. I mean,
because I saw only like the actual the actual.
Go to any of our YouTube videos and read the conversations there. It's amazing. Okay. I mean, the comments or the comments. The comments are epic. Our community, I love our community, and our community inspires me. They hold us accountable. Like, hey, this is not cool. That's cool. A great job. Or hey, this could be improved. But our community is always teaching us through our like customer service and our comments on Instagram and YouTube. They are teaching us all the time. That's why we call them catalyzers. There's this relationship.
Yeah.
They're co-owning it. They're co-creating it. And I wouldn't replace our community with anything out there. Our community, the Skin Deep community, that's what keeps our team going. We have a channel on Slack. It's called The Jar. And it's called Audience Feedback. We have 2 things we're grateful for, and the feedback that is positive and negative that keeps us going. So that, because you're still working in the thing, you don't hear the echo, you don't hear the response. So
and depending on your mood, if you want to read it or not read it, no.
I love reading it because I just. Yeah, I know we're affecting people. I know we're reflecting things for people. We're creating the space for people. We're creating impact, and that's.
It's alive.
It's amazing. It's alive.
It's alive.
Yeah, and we have this incredible. Yeah,
What could you say has been like one kind of like testimony or story that it really kind of like on top of your head?
I got one 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
It was a good friend of ours. His wife played the and it's Kelly and Fergie. It's on this YouTube. It's a Skin Deep. It's the and conversation on YouTube, and it's a woman with her mom. The mom is, at the time of the interview, she's probably 80. And there's a line I'll never forget. This is probably 6 years ago, and the mom says, if I ever leave this earth, I want you to know that I have loved you entirely and completely. Something like that. That's not exactly the line, but something like that.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. So 2 weeks ago, I got an email from that woman's husband, who's a friend of mine. It says, Topaz, he's like a collaborator. We worked on projects in the past. Great guy. He's like, Topaz, I just want to thank you because Fergie passed away this past weekend. Mm-hmm. And Kelly, her daughter, the one who was in the conversation, has been watching that over and over again. It's a great memory, a great way to support the transition.
Yeah.
And it's a thing that she will always have. So thank you.
Wow.
And I shared it with the team, beautiful. But for me, that's one. Another one we got about a month ago was from a Chicago police officer who said, we just want to thank you for the card games because the card games are helping us with our families. Because we come back, it's really hard working in the field, and we come back and we have no energy. And our families want to know how we're doing. Mm-hmm. And we have no energy to talk. We don't even know how to have a conversation. So we've been using the card games to create the space, and it's healing us.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, because you don't have the energy to think about these questions, but it's a help.
Look, if your partner comes to you and says, Amaury, why do you love me? Mm-hmm. You're not wondering why you love your partner. You're wondering, what the hell happened? No, you're wondering what happened that you're coming to me to say why you love me. Like, did I leave the toilet seat up? Did you think I'm flirting with somebody else? What happened?
Yeah.
But if you have a game and the question's there, all of a sudden it creates a space, boom, an opening where you can receive the answer and I can give it. And it's just a simple function, but it's so profound that we've forgotten about because we're so much living in the place of talking me.
Yeah.
So let's create an opening. Why do you love me? Oof. Now they're going to go into it because they're playing a game. They're not wondering what other hidden agenda is or no. And you're there to receive and I'm there to give. And that's why these things are so powerful. And we call it an exercise in emotional articulation. There's emotional intelligence of like knowing how you feel. And there's also like naming it. Mm-hmm. And you can't name anything ultimately, right? It's a feeling, like you talked about your dad. It's like a feeling. But that's how we communicate. That's how we connect. It was we use those words. That's what's enabled us to become bigger conscious on the planet. So by asking a new question, you create a new experience of which you jump in, have like a leap of faith of exploring together, and you create a unique moment. And these things are, just trust me, man. Go home and let me know what happens.
I'm already picturing me playing it. What?
And just the thing between us and everyone else. This is your podcast.
Yeah.
Is I find
it's yours too, man.
Yeah, but is there's kind of like a tarot quality to these card games? I don't know. It's not. It's about so you mix them up, offer to someone, and notice the first question they take. Because usually it's the
you said tarot, like
tarot.
Okay,
yeah. It's not designed that way, but I noticed through the 8 years that it
happens. Those things happen,
and it hits on the head. And one time I was so confident about it, and there was somebody who was pessimistic. I was like, listen, I think these have like trust. Take a card. So she mixed the card. She took one. She read it. She started crying.
Yeah,
because it was the question that no one knew that she was thinking about. That was the biggest thing in her life, and the question asked it. Yeah. And I'm not saying that's why you buy the questions. I'm just saying, as a side note, that seems to be happening.
Yeah.
That there's a tarot quality to it. But no doubt, it creates a space for an intimate conversation to be had that you wouldn't have otherwise.
And I mean, I'm sure I'm going to find out it's 199 questions. How do you choose the length of the deck? Like,
on the back we say choose 12 questions.
Okay.
But like
you can go.
You might find yourself talking about one question for an hour.
Okay.
Some people
not even going further.
Not even.
Into a second.
It's like I just take it until you get bored of it.
The possibilities of the decks are endless.
It's.
I mean, you can.
But it's the power of the question.
Yeah, I know, and I understand that, and that's why I'm saying the possibilities are endless.
Right.
Because you can take it to a very deep, like this, a healing, or it can be even, I don't know. Is there a deck for like sexual? Oh,
that's our new. We have a new. Okay, so check this out.
Because that could help a lot of people.
We are launching a new product in the U.S.
Yeah.
It's called Honest X.
Okay.
A safe, anonymous place to explore your sexuality.
Mm-hmm.
You could play this game alone. There's all these different questions, and there's 5 ways. There's 5 ways that you have to answer the question.
Mm-hmm.
One is with only 5 words. One is you have to talk about it for more than 3 minutes. One is you have to lie about it, or like exaggerate. I remember what we settled on. One is you have to answer.
Lie is a very good one.
Yeah, as though you're somebody else.
Yeah.
So you're like, if we're playing, like I would answer for you.
My couple or my,
Yeah.
you know?
And the other one is answer in silence. So you choose 5 questions, lie them down, you go through them round one. Then you take the questions and you put them in different spots. So now you're answering them in a different way.
Yeah.
And then you do that 3 times. So you're basically answering the same question in 3 different ways. So it's deepening your exploration of that issue around sexuality.
Yeah.
You know?
It's not the same of lying about it and then have to say it without words. Is that what it is? Like move or something like that?
Or just answer the other person in silence with the energy. So for instance, let's say you're playing with your partner.
Yeah.
And the first question you answer 3 minutes long. So you fully give the explanation. The next time the question is answer with only 5 words. So you take the 3-minute thing and just choose 5 profound words. Boom, boom, boom. But that already starts shifting your relationship to that thing. And then let's say the third round, that question ends up being in silence. So you look at your partner, you're playing with it, and you just answer in silence. And we're reminded that there's so many ways to communicate. It's not just words.
Yeah.
Right? So it's about creating an experience. So we're taking these card games that are creating experiences. This is about life and relationship, love and relationships. The next product's called Honest X. That's about sexuality. So we at the Skin Deep are a life brand where we create tools. The and is one, love and relationships. Honest X is for sexuality. We're creating another one for work environment and another one to connect you with the environment.
Okay.
It's called 8 Billion Suns. And I've been waiting to build that for 5 years now. And hopefully it'll come out in 2 years. But 8 Billion Suns is awesome, is epic.
Why does that ring a bell? 8 billion suns. Is that the length? No?
I don't know.
Just, you want to say it.
I don't know.
That's a good
know.
question.
Yeah.
That's a very cool name, man.
Yeah.
Wow, man. I'm surprised in a very good way. It's very cool. I want to play it already, man.
Yeah.
Maybe we can even do like a episode of
for sure.
Of questions with a deck or something like that. It would be cool.
Yeah.
It would be very cool.
For real.
Especially because, we were completely strangers an hour ago, and this could be a good way to start a podcast.
It's a great way. No, I'll get you the Strangers deck.
Okay.
And you can use that here and just give us a plug every time.
Exactly.
But
of course, completely mentioning the Skin Deep, but
no
that's very cool, man. Congratulations. That's a very cool project.
Yeah.
I didn't fully understand, and now that you explain it in this way, it just obviously because I will completely understand it once I play it, no?
Right. So there's there's the and app. There's the card games. There's the app that you can search through other people's conversations and have it yourself with anybody in the world. And then there's
you can load your questions and create like a deck. Okay.
Not yet. We're going to build that. We're actually
Don't say anything you don't want to spoil, but I think I know
building it. Yeah.
Yeah. Because that's kind of like democratizando. That's
democratizing.
It's democratizing.
Yeah.
The experience, because
totally
that's what it should be.
And we're actually going to build ultimately this social platform that we're building of the Wikipedia.
Yeah.
Is going to be built and it's going to be owned by everyone who participates.
Okay.
It's not going to be owned by us.
Open source. It's kind of yeah.
I don't know if it's like open source.
But the concept
of like everybody owns for what they contribute.
Yeah.
We don't own it. The people who participate, who contribute, they own for every contribution. They own a piece of it. Because if you're going to build the Wikipedia of humanity of the 21st century, it should be owned by the people who participate.
Yeah.
And maybe even others that I haven't thought about that are participating without. I don't know, but like, just like I think differently about media and how this is, I got to think different about ownership too.
Yeah.
You know, I got to think about structure and ownership as well. It can't just be owned by me. Mm-hmm. You know, if it has to be, you got to walk the walk. So like our company sells human relationship, communication, we got to do that too. Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. You know, if the thing is about humanity, it's got to be owned by humanity.
It has to be itself what it is, no? Because you were saying earlier, you were describing this jump, and I have a word for that because I say it a lot on this podcast, which is a quantum leap. No, it's a quantum jump. You said conflict is gonna take us to a higher level of whatever we are and what we become. No. Yeah. And I think that the challenges that we face, and I say we, this generation of living people at this moment, this present moment in this planet, we have the opportunity. It's not even the duty. Of course, you can make it a duty, but it's more of an opportunity and an exciting time. You said also that earlier. This is exciting time, man. If you're conscious about it, it's exciting time. Why is exciting? Because I think that in this conflict, in this verge of this leap, the things that we have to think about is how do we do this leap, not only of we're gonna become better species or better planet and do this leap. No, the leap comes from thinking in projects like this, but at the same time thinking in how do we break the paradigm of we're a company and we have to own everything. Yeah. Or I'm owner of your information. I'm owner of your profile because I'm going to sell it into this world that it already has established the rules of play. Right. How do we create new rules of play? And obviously there's going to be another leap in many years that is going to completely toss that. Yeah. But I don't know, man. Like I celebrate the fact that you're saying we're not only making this project, but we also thinking of how to give it to the people. And I'm gonna give you a personal example. A couple of years back, I created with my father a new model of television for soccer. Chivas was I'm gonna try to make it short because it's a long explanation, but Mexican football had a very specific format of how television broadcasting of soccer games was being made. So we wanted to change that, and we created something called Chivas TV, which is a platform. It's more than a platform that streams the games of Chivas and breaks the model of how football has been watched in this country. Well, it's not even rocket science. It's just that the television in Mexico for many years has been the same model. There's two big television companies, TV Azteca and Televisa, who owns the majority of the teams. Yeah. I mean, there's also Fox Sports, and that's it. And so by making Chivas TV, what we wanted to do was democratize the signal of the games of Chivas by making it a open stream platform, and so then for free at the beginning, and then it changed to be a subscribers platform. You have to subscribe. I lost the word there, but subscribe compose platform, and we've been changing it, and we have been very successful in one things, and other things either it wasn't the time or it was in the moment. We could do it, many different reasons. Yeah. But there was an idea that I'm still very fond of it, and I think it could really change. And it came up because I went to a summit where there was this guy who was talking about the strategy of the NBA to have the content deliver into so many countries where the NBA was having this fan base. No, they realized that they were very United States driven, and they will sell something sometimes to Europe and maybe Mexico, Latin America, whatever. But then they found out that they had a huge fan base all over the world. Africa, right. Asia, whatever, NBA. It's NBA, Tell me someone in the world that doesn't know Michael Jordan. Probably It's going to be hard, Yeah. So they say, okay, how do we create a product to deliver the NBA to all these fans and all over the world? If we try to sell it to the broadcasters in all over the world, if you want to have, I don't know, Nigeria to sell the NBA, probably the broadcaster would not have enough money to buy the rights to it. And not only that, how do you sustain the quality of the product in countries where, they don't have the same tools as the United States to continue to deliver the product?
Right.
So they say that's something, it really blew my head up, my mind was, they say, okay, so why don't we give the fans the product, and they make them themselves, and they put the voice so the people will listen to what the fans say. So let me say it in another way, because it didn't come up in a good way. So they say, okay, so if we want to have the product, if you send the signal to Africa, to Nigeria, we will have to translate it to Swahili and to many other dialects, and that's just a huge financial problem. Right. It's not going to be able to do that. So why don't we open the source of the signal for fans to put the narration to it, and that way you will never have to produce, the signal. The fans itself will do it. And that was it. That was the idea. And so how do we apply that to Chivas TV, for example? So not only the fact that fans will take over what it needs to be free from these television companies, but also for the people who are going to listen to the game or to the match are going to say, well, I like more this guy because this guy is funny, or I like it more serious, so I follow this guy. And you open up a new possibilities.
Are you doing that?
No, we're not doing that. But,
it's a great idea.
But that for me is something similar to you were saying. Yeah. How do we make people own the signal, own the match, own the football? Because I think, and maybe to sum up, I will say that the new paradigm is we've been coming from this perspective of trying to own things ourselves. Yeah. And I own this. This is my brand. This is my product. And, and I think that the way now that we have, and it's going to be hard, and maybe we're not, you and me, we're not going to see it fully going, happening in all aspects. But the way we have to do is not about me owning or a group of person. It's about how we do things that everybody own.
Right.
And I think one of the keys for the next leap of human species is not socialism. It's not about right or left. It's about everybody owning everything. Right. So we create a conscious of, this is not me. This is not my land. This is not, it's everyone's land. It's everyone's world. It sounds very romantic.
No, but actually, if you think about, a lot of indigenous cultures are around that.
Yeah, yeah.
With the Aboriginals in Australia, they don't own the thing they have. They come up and say, "Oh, I like that. If I like that guitar, you take that guitar because it's not mine. It's ours." So a lot of indigenous cultures, I think, have this sense, this holistic sense of there's no ownership. It's like an act. So for me, the shift that we're going is exactly what you're talking about. It's not about ownership anymore. It's about access. Uber, Airbnb, you don't own the house, but you have access to it. Airbnb is the biggest hotel company in the world. They don't own a single hotel. They create access. To me, and that's a shift in energy from one way that I articulate it is the shift from masculine energy, which has been dominating, which is about power, which is defined by who owns it.
Yeah.
Do I own it or not? Control is ownership. But now it's access, and that's more feminine. It's more holistic. It's more, and maybe the question between feminine and masculine energy binary is no longer acceptable. But if you accept this polarity between masculine and feminine as an example, then the feminine is more about us, a collective. So it's not about owning, it's about access. Uber, access. You don't own the car. They don't own the cars, but they create the access, right? So how do we create access? We're opening up. And then, how do you have access when it's legitimate and it's locked in the ledger that is not controlled by someone else, like the banks. Now you have blockchain technology that's enabling it. So the technology is enabling us to create new models because we have the new tools. When we didn't have the tools, we could dream all we want. Nothing would happen. But now there's blockchain. We can create this thing. It's like we all own for what we contribute. Oh my God, there's a whole new way of operating. And it's about exactly what you're saying, access.
And you said, that's very interesting. Blockchain is enabling us. I will say also, it's disabling the need for control, or not the need,
Totally.
the wanting of control. I think is great about blockchain is that it eliminates control, which we're...
Right. It's a whole that place is a wild west. My brother is in that field and he tells me the stories. It's like, wow. But you know, it's another thing, I don't know. I'm a huge soccer fan.
Yeah.
But
I'm sure you're Chivas or...
Oh, clearly Chivas. but
or from this moment on.
Yeah. But what I study is the tactics and because to me, it's what I love about soccer is that it's like life. You know, in the three American sports, you always know where you stand. Mm-hmm. Baseball, 2 balls, 1 strike, second base, the score is this, 7 innings. So you know football, American football, we're on the 50-yard line, we have 3rd down, 10 yards to go, and the score. You always know exactly where you stand. Basketball?
What's the
basketball? You know? It's like 72-65, 12 minutes left in the 4th quarter. Mm-hmm. You know. They have to score these much to win. Mm-hmm. In soccer, it's you don't know. I mean, you could play like Mourinho, where you're just parking the bus, and you're on the counterattack and you win, and you have the ball 30% of the time. Mm-hmm. Like you don't. It's like life. I might walk out here and get hit by a car, and then my life is totally different. Or I might, you don't know when you're gonna fall in love with the person. You don't know when you get divorced, when you find out you have cancer. Life is like, and soccer is like that, and it's based on relationship. Because you have these personalities. Just because you have all the, let's see how PSG now does. With all these stars, they have the most. But what's the relationship between the players? Yeah. How do they play together?
Well, at this moment, it's like they're in the first place, way up.
Yeah, but that's like,
I know. But
you saw they lost. But like, so now for me, I study the managers.
Yeah.
Like directors of cinema.
Yeah.
You know, you like if you know cinema, you follow the directors. What do they do now? What's their lineage? Where are they going?
Yeah.
And I follow so now I watch PSG because Pochettino's there. Mm-hmm. I'm interested in Roma because Mourinho's there. Just because I want to see what Mourinho does with that team. So I'm following the managers because how do they handle these personalities? How do they find the right tactics and structure with these personalities for them to excel, which is what we also do in business. You have your team. You're like, all right, where do I put this person? How do I create the environment for them to grow and excel? Yeah. How do I move? Okay, this person's not doing well, but they want inclination. How do I position them? How do I inspire them? And the same thing I see the managers. So I'm a soccer fan.
No, you're a mouthful of very interesting things, man. Like, just by the fact, I will relate more soccer, not to sports, but to the Colosseum, like to the gladiators, than to sports itself, you know?
100%.
because of that factor of whatever can happen. And recently, I not that I learned this, but I put it in words recently that soccer it's about emotions.
Sure.
And that for me really sticked. And because that's what it is. Like you can, if you simplify soccer, which is not a lot of people knows it, even though that they love soccer. And I'm not saying that I'm the expert of soccer. Actually, people make fun of me in the public because they say that I don't know about soccer because I study filmmaking, right. Which makes me laugh because, I it's not that I study filmmaking. I've studied life like you did, and everybody knows. It's not that you're a soccer expert and that's the only thing you know how to do. Yeah. Anyway, but that's another thing. But what I'm saying is that if you see soccer simplify as a sport, like if you put it in few words, is just 4 moments: attack, transition from attack to defense, transition from defense to attack. Right? That's soccer, really. Like if you trying to explain to an alien how soccer, and then everything, of course, you have to score goals. There's a minute, whatever. But if you really look into what soccer is, it's just about relationships between the players.
Yeah.
And emotions during those relationships.
Right. But then don't you add like, I totally agree with that. And I say, but isn't there like a layer of or underlying of structure, because if the manager or not.
Yeah, of course.
Like we're playing, but it is about their connection. It's
about success of the manager presenting a strategy for a rival or for a match will be proportionate related to how the relationship works between him and his players.
Totally. No, I remember.
And not only that, and it's how the players relate to themselves
and each other
in order for them having a direction in a strategy.
Yeah.
Because you can have Mourinho put in a strategy, but if he hasn't built a relationship with his players, one, it would not work. No matter how good the strategy is.
That's what happened to him.
He could be having a good relationship. Sorry that I'm interrupting you, just to say that he could have a great relationship with his players. And everybody's listening, and the way he portrayed his strategies are perfect. But if the relationship between the players are not well, the strategy is not going to work.
Right. You're right. It's both, right? It's both.
And I think that's the big change of paradigm in the sports in the last years, that it's more than just soccer strategy. It's about human management.
Wasn't it what made Phil Jackson,
of course,
so successful? Is that he knew how to talk to his players. He knew how to create connection between them. He knew how to create this cohesion, which is also like what we need to do, or anyone who's building a business needs to do too.
And how to let the Dennis Rodman of your team
be Dennis Rodman
and go to Vegas one night before the big game,
Yeah, exactly.
But that's so hard because that's and we go back again to the fact that I think that we're in this very strange transition or very important transition, and in the way we're not grasping, and the relationships are becoming very hard, especially between generations, and how generations communicate with each other, and the wants and wants of one generation, the wants the other generation, and I think there's a clash happening right now, and that's why it's so hard for older people to connect with younger people, because I don't think we have ever been so different between generations than any other modern times. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
We're wired so differently because of this, that to connect is becoming very hard. And in order to make these things happen, like soccer, you need connection, and you need small societies, and that's tough, man. It's I know, in terms of soccer, I know it's becoming very tough. But
it's interesting because the platform you have that Chivas represents in Mexico, it's an iconic team. So like, to me, it's not just like I don't know. My dream is to one day, if I ever had, for whatever reason, so much money that I could buy a team, I would go to a small place in Spain, buy a small team, and spend 15 years just having that journey. That's like a dream that I'll probably get maybe in the next lifetime. Not this
buy a team in Mexico, man.
But I think
we need more. I would say different owners.
Right. But I guess for you, I would just say considering that's my dream, I don't think I want to be in your seat because of responsibility.
Yeah.
And the weight that comes with having Chivas. I mean, that is a iconic brand. It's not like you got some small team in the middle of nowhere.
No.
You have Chivas, man.
Yeah.
You think of what Chivas, Pumas. I don't know the Mexican league that well, but what I've heard as an American from there, it's just Chivas, Pumas, and then there's the other big one, America.
It's Chivas, America, probably Pumas, Cruz Azul.
Yeah.
Then you have the teams of the North in that order in terms of relevance and
it's
and brand awareness.
It makes me think of Ronaldo.
Yeah.
Well, actually, when he did with the Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
He just moved that over, and that's a huge.
Yeah.
I think of Muhammad Ali. That guy was an incredible true leader of his time.
Oh yeah.
That expanded beyond boxing and sports. He was a true leader, and there are some true leaders in sports now, and you have that opportunity now, and that's a It's a difficult line to walk.
Move like a butterfly, sting like a bee. Yeah. It's not a weight. It's not a lift.
Really?
Oh yeah.
Dude,
I have two ways to see Chivas. Like you said, it's a big response, of course, and I'm aware, and I'm aware of the responsibility. I think that I'm very lucky by being conscious about the responsibility. It will be very responsible for me not to be, you know?
But how do you... Yeah.
But I can see it two ways. As a weight, and it will crush me.
Sure.
Because it's fucking heavy, man. You know? Or I can see it as a lift. So it doesn't mean that it gets easier, you know? Right. But I don't see it as a weight. I see it something that it lifts you up. It propels you, you know?
But I heard a few weeks ago you replaced the coach, right?
Yeah.
And didn't they throw bottles? You guys won the game. They're throwing bottles at your seat.
No.
That's not true.
That's not true.
Not true. Okay.
No.
Because if that happened to me, I would be.
No, people were very pissed and they were yelling, things at me, and obviously, but it's not the first time that it happens. It's not going to be the last time.
Right.
That nobody hurt me or whatever, threw bottles at me or whatever, and I understand why that happened. So I don't. Not that I don't feel anything. Of course I feel something. I get pissed and I get pissed a lot, like it will be bad if I don't get pissed. Who wants to have an owner of a team who doesn't feel anything?
Of course.
I feel and because I feel I take decisions that I think are the best for that team and for the people of the team, you know? But I also understand why people were mad or they were pissed at me. It's not because they're pissed at me. They're pissed at what I represent and what I can do or do not, or what they want things to happen.
Yeah.
And as far as I have that train of thought, I think I'm in the right track.
Yeah.
If I divert from that, and if I think that it's about me,
right,
that Chivas is about me, I lose. Like I lose the game.
Right.
I hopefully think that it never is going to happen, man.
Yeah.
I think there's people who have been in my position. Not my father. I think my father was very clear of what he wanted to do. But people who are in my position in other teams or in other moments of Chivas who have fallen into that trap.
Mm-hmm.
It's a trap. It's the ego trap of soccer and fame or, whatever not,
Yeah.
But stick to your values and be ready to take shit, man. Topaz, this has been a marvelous chat.
It's been good, man. Thank you so much.
You think something's missing? You want to close with something or?
No, I just want to thank you for your time and your openness, and I appreciate the conversation. I've learned a lot.
Yeah, me too, man. Me too.
So I'm really grateful for the time and the convo.
Thank you, man.
As always.
Congratulations for everything you're doing.
Yeah, man.
Awesome. Gracias por escuchar este episodio de Transmutando. ¿Qué piensas de los temas que discutimos? Nos encantaría saber cuáles son tus comentarios. Comenta nuestros videos y comparte. Si no estás suscrito, ahora es una gran oportunidad para hacerlo. Cada semana tenemos un episodio nuevo. Al suscribirte estarás enterado de todos los estrenos y, por supuesto, si nos dejas un like, estaremos muy agradecidos contigo. Gracias de nuevo por escucharnos.